Man, these new Rams logos are ugly. I mean, at least the color scheme might suggest they could start using those awesome throwback uniforms a little bit more. I mean, at least it can't get a lot worse. What the I think, though, to fully appreciate just how bad the news is today from the Rams, we're going to have to take a step back. About a year and a half or so back. It's January 2019, and the Rams, completely on their own without any help and definitely without any controversy, are headed to the Super Bowl. And a lot of people were picking them to win that Super Bowl. After all, they had the best running back in the NFL, a good young quarterback who seemed to look better and better every week, with some pretty good targets to throw to, and a defense to match with probably the best defensive player in the entire NFL in Aaron Donald. Unfortunately for the Rams, that is pretty much where everything started to fall apart. I mean, sure, the defense did, for the most part, do its job by holding the Patriots to only 13 points, but that offense only put up 3. Their star running back rushed for only 35 yards on 10 carries, and Jared Goff looked a lot more like that lost rookie from his first year than anything we had seen in the 2 years under Sean McVay. But hey, things happen, and besides, the Rams will probably be back. After all, they still have Sean McVay, who's the envy of the entire NFL, calling the shots. And I mean, they still do have one of the best running backs in the NFL, who will have an entire offseason to rest from whatever weird injuries seem to have been slowing him down. And that defense definitely isn't going anywhere. Well, that definitely didn't go to plan. Sure, it might have been unfair to expect that the Rams were going to be able to match their 13-3 record from the 2018 season, but I don't think anybody saw 9-7 coming. And to be fair, they did lose a couple of key pieces on the offensive line, but I don't think anybody was expecting Todd Gurley's numbers to fall off nearly as much as they did, rushing for almost 400 fewer yards in 2019 than he did in 2018. And also for Jared Goff to seemingly regress, looking panicked under pressure and throwing some very questionable passes. Regardless though, it all accumulated to a very disappointing 9-7 season, where going in, a lot of people were expecting the Rams to compete for a 1 or maybe a 2 seed, but in the end, missed the playoffs entirely. And again, going into the year, the division seemed like it was going to be the Rams to lose for a while. I mean, granted, the Seahawks still had Russell Wilson, but it seemed like they were in a bit of a rebuild, and the other 2 teams in the division were picking at the top of the draft. But now, all of a sudden, the Rams once again find themselves looking up at the Seahawks and 49ers, who once again seem to be 2 of the best teams in the NFC. Meanwhile, the Cardinals are catching up faster than anybody expected with an exciting young quarterback of their own. And that brings us to this offseason. Even with the Cardinals acquiring one of the best receivers in the NFL, and the Rams lost Todd Gurley and, albeit an aging, Clay Matthews, there's still plenty of offseason for the Rams to make some moves. And to be fair, there's only so much that they can do now that will change how the team performs in 2020 on the field. And besides, there's still plenty to be excited about. After all, they're going to have a brand new stadium, as long as nothing goes wrong in the final stages of construction. And hey, even if you have limited options as far as changing how your team's going to perform on the field in the coming year, you can still change how they look, and what better time for a nice rebrand than when you're about to get a fancy new stadium? I mean, sure, the Rams had one of the better logos in the NFL, and had even made some pretty good changes over the last few years since moving to LA to kind of freshen up the logo and give it a nice, clean, sometimes even retro look with the uniforms. But hey, what could go wrong with a little bit of a rebrand? First, we got the new logo, and I'm not going to talk about it too much because I already did that some in a previous video when this logo came out, but I do have a couple of things to say. The one they had was sleek, modern, had an awesome angry look to it, and most importantly, was very clearly professionally designed. Meanwhile, this new one looks half-assed to say the least. I mean, it almost looks like they outsourced the design of it to a junior college intro to art class as part of their midterm. Or maybe they just stole it from the school's logo itself. I mean, besides, it's not like they couldn't have found a fan to do a better job. And sure, at first glance, their secondary logo seems to be a fairly nice homage to one of the first LA Rams logos, but then you look at its face. Deep breath. I mean, it is just a new logo, and after all, this isn't hockey where the primary logo gets plastered on the front of the jersey. And it does seem like they're going with that brighter color scheme from the early days when they had those really cool uniforms that they've started to do those retro versions of. So maybe they're just going to those. I mean, that would actually be pretty cool. Wait a second. What are those? Are those the new uniforms? Sweet mother of all that's holy. Those things are bad. Honestly, I don't even know where to start with these things. I mean, I guess to be fair, they do match the new logo pretty well. Unfortunately, that new logo is hot garbage. Alright, to be honest, I do kind of like the design of the new horn on the helmet, and if you zoom way in on those numbers, there is some detailing on them that matches that layered horn look, which is also not terrible. Unfortunately though, the rest of it is terrible. I mean, they look like cheap knockoffs of the new Chargers uniforms in IKEA colors. Although to be fair, I don't think IKEA would want anything to do with these. And to go back to those numbers, when you're not all the way zoomed in on them, which you know is going to be pretty much all the time, you realize that pretty much the best thing you can say about the font is that it's not Comic Sans. If you watched my previous video grading the other new jerseys in the NFL, if not, it's linked below, you'll know that I was not a big fan of the font on the new Falcons jerseys. The one redeeming quality of that new Falcons font, though, was that at least they tried something new, and really the only way it could be worse was if it had been bad and just completely boring. And this is what I meant. Really, the only not boring part about these new numbers is the gradient, but you might also remember that that's a pretty big no-no. But at least they did ditch the gradient in the numbers for their bone-on-bone jerseys, which is a stupid thing in and of itself. I mean, come on, what are you, too cool to wear white now? Instead, you'd rather wear the color on the walls of Grandma's retirement home? But back to the blue jerseys, while I did say that I like the overall design of the new horn on the helmet, on the shoulders it just looks boring and overall stupid. But even after all that, we still haven't gotten to one of my least favorite parts of these new uniforms. Now, I admit this is a pretty small feature, and if you're watching the team on game day, you probably won't even notice it. But if I was a fan in a store wanting to look at buying one of these new jerseys, it is definitely probably one of the bigger features that would give me a second thought about it. And that is these stupid little patches on the left shoulders of the uniforms. On the blue one, it's not quite as bad, it just says Los Angeles Rams in white letters, and while it is a stupid, out-of-place eyesore, it's not nearly as bad as the one on the bone jerseys, where for some reason they decided to put the blue lettering on a white patch, which wouldn't be that big of an issue if they hadn't decided to go with the bone color. But for whatever reason, I mean, maybe it's the small crowded looking text or the fact that the rest of these jerseys look like they're half-assed already, this one again just looks like it's a cheap ad. And one of my favorite things about jerseys in North American pro sports is that, at least to this point, for the most part, they've managed to avoid having advertisements at all on them. So even though this isn't technically an advertisement, the fact that it looks like one is just a little bit extra annoying to me. And I get that most of my issues with these new uniforms are a little bit nitpicky, but I guess that's just kind of what you get when in the end, it looks like the team got stuck behind wanting a simplistic look and trying to be creative but in the most bland, unoffensive way possible. Either way though, from a grade perspective, I have to give these new uniforms a big fat F. But hey, at least for the Rams, while their team seems to be crumbling and they're trying to sell this crap as an exciting new look, it's not like the other team in the city that they're competing for fans with is putting out maybe the best jerseys in the NFL. Oh, wait. As always, if you have made it this far, thank you for watching. If you did like this video, let me know about that by hitting the little thumbs up down there below. If you really like this video and want to see more of my stuff, the subscribe button can help you out with that. And if you have any thoughts of your own or things you'd like to add, please let me know about those in the comment section. Otherwise, I hope to see you next time, and stay safe out there. Peace.